Right, Pete, I'm back. Now, we've got a lot to talk about today. We'll have a quick review of what's happened this weekend so far. Obviously, there's still one game to play, Newcastle and West Ham. But I've got to do it now because I've got to go to the gym. I've got to go to work. Early mornings are when I get things done. Get up early. I'm up at 4 a.m., down to the gym by 5 or out for a run. And I've got to go to work. So think on, peeps. Busy schedule, busy schedule. So for 2 days a week anyway. Rest of the week, I'm flat on my back, out on the hammock. Right, so let's see. What are we going to do? What are we going to do, peeps? Right, so slight green arrow at the moment, 59 points. Reasonably happy with that actually because Saturday was pretty awful. But very surprised that Fernandez got some points this week, but fantastic free kick. Honestly, he's really found his range in the last couple of weeks. Did a great free kick the other day too. Rare's hopeless. Wrong position, had no chance basically. Pinpoint accuracy from Fernandez, and really, he's looking back to his best. He's really stepped up, I think, with injuries to the other United players, and he kind of knows it's up to him, I think, to drag them out of it. It's a pity that Palmer isn't reacting the same way, peeps, because he's been absolutely shocking, hasn't he? But I must say, right, if you captain Palmer, don't beat yourself up about it. I do not think it was a bad decision. None of us knew how many minutes Salah was going to play. None of us expected him to play as long as he did. And to be honest, he was rubbish, absolute rubbish. If he hadn't got his 2 penalties, he'd have blanked. Let's be honest about it, but Liverpool, everything's going for Salah, isn't it, at the moment? Everything. But, luck doesn't continue forever. But he will, I'm getting rid of him this week anyway. But what did annoy me, I had to block a few people on Blue Sky this week. People saying after the event that people were idiots for captaining Palmer. They weren't idiots. It was a logical decision. Better people than them captain Palmer. Good managers with fantastic records captained Palmer this week. So it wasn't a terrible decision. The outcome was terrible. But what I did find interesting was Palmer missing his penalty. It reminded me of when Haaland missed a penalty back in game week 11, 12. It might have even been in Europe, but he took a penalty and he was really out of form and out of touch and he missed his penalty. And that was the deciding factor that made me kick him out way back whenever it was. Because I think if Palmer had been more confident, he wouldn't have missed the penalty, would he? He's trying too hard at the moment. And if he'd scored it, he might well have gone on and got another one, So just the way it is, peeps. Things happen. If you're chasing, it wasn't a bad option to try something like that because it had a good chance of success. It didn't work out, but it could have done. So, like I said, none of us know in advance. None of us knew, although I did actually know that Mamouche wasn't going to start because I got up for the deadline streams and it was known 5 minutes before deadline that Mamouche wasn't going to start. So if I'd left my transfer to the last minute, I probably wouldn't have got Mamouche in. I would have ended up getting Evan Nielsen or Wood probably, or maybe even Visser. But I think it would have been Wood or Evan Nielsen. Probably Wood actually, because I wasn't keen on having 3 Bournemouth players. And before Evan Nielsen was injured, he went through a really bad run, didn't he? I think he went through a large number of games where he didn't get any points. But he got a goal, so he got 9 points or whatever it is. But we didn't know Mamouche wasn't going to start. I'm not writing him off yet. Obviously, if he's benched against Brighton and benched against Leicester, I'll be getting rid of him in 31, probably for a Palace Marteta, probably. But I'm not writing Mamouche off yet. I'm not getting too worked up because that fixture at Forest is one of the hardest that City are going to have to face. And, there could be logical reasons. It could even be to do with Ramadan or something like that. We just don't know, do we? So one game of being benched isn't enough to write him off, but it's probably enough to put people off buying him if you don't already own him. But it's not enough to make me want to sell him. So, Semenyo, more defensive than usual, had to mark Pedro Porro, didn't play his usual role, wore him out, got cramp, came off and got booked. He's now on 8 yellows. So a lot of people talking about bringing him in this week, maybe reviews telling people to bring him in. I personally wouldn't, because the fact that he's on 8 yellows, he gets one more and he's on a tightrope. He could have a hamstring injury, but it appears it's unlikely, and it was just cramp. But but I wouldn't bring him. He wouldn't be my first choice to bring in, to be honest. But a lot of people are talking about bringing him in this week. A lot of people bringing in Fernandez, who again I wouldn't bring in. But we'll look at all that in a minute. First off, we'll go and have a look at the this league. We'll order it in game week, see what's happened. Remember, there's still one game to go. We'll have a look at transfers and captains first. So let's see, who did everyone captain? All the ones who had a good game week. Oh, Fabio captain Palmer. See, world's best manager, or one of the top ones, Captain Palmer. Wag, Captain Palmer. Late riser, Captain Palmer, and can you blame him? And as he Captain Palmer, not a bad decision, bad outcome. I think, like I said, we didn't know how many minutes Salah was going to play. We didn't even know if he was going to start, did we? So, didn't work out for them, but at least they tried, peeps. At least they tried. So, what have we got? Bakar at the top with 65. Who have people got that I haven't got? João Pedro and Watkins. And Colwell. Surprising. I was so surprised last week to find that like 40% of this league, or 50%, had Colwell in their team, when the overall ownership amongst good managers is like 10% or something. So it's hugely overrepresented in this league. Harry, 61, he's doing fantastic, Harry. Absolutely. Look, he's nearly 100 points in the overall. He's put nearly 100 points on everyone else in this league. And he's still got his assistant manager chip. I've got it too. We're the only two that still have our assistant manager chip left. Everyone else has used it. But everything he touches is just working out. So he had Munoz and Watkins. There's my team again. We've already seen that. I'm third this week on 59. I was about the only one who made a transfer in this league. Didn't work out really, did it? But still peeps. I needed to make one actually because I didn't have a bench. Andy's next with 52. I saw his game week review stream earlier, and he's not very happy. His team's a mess. He's got like 8 players for this week coming up. He's got Dango and Nweri, who are both now risks of minutes because the players that they replaced are now back. And really buying 2 of them like that was a bit of a, don't know whether it was wise, because we always knew that Evan Nielsen would be back. And we also know that Saka's going to be back. And I think Martinelli's back. So that's casting a bit of doubt on Nweri. But he probably will still play. But he's not actually doing very well. I think he got hooked before 60 minutes, didn't he, this week? So whether he will start next week or not has to be some conjecture about that. Well, he did play midweek, I guess, in the Champions League, didn't he? And they got another Champions League game on Wednesday, I believe. So, yeah. So they've still got to get through that, haven't they? Fabio, 51, despite captaining Palmer. Still has Bowen to go, though. Doesn't have Isaac. Really need Isaac to play tonight, because if Isaac doesn't play, I've got 0 coming off my bench. Absolutely, literally 0. Joe with 50. Has Isaac and Bowen, so he's still got Bowen. Really need Bowen to bank. Bowen to blank. Henderson 10 points. Henderson doing well. Wag 49. She's doing all right considering she captained Palmer as well, and still has Bowen and Isaac to go. Had Henderson, Colwell, and Watkins. So Watkins actually hasn't done badly, has he, for people? Mark next on 49. Now Mark was doing really well a few weeks ago. He had a really golden patch, and now he's having a run of red arrows, I think. And he got Isaac left. Nobody really turned up for him. Munoz got 6 points. I think Munoz owners probably would have been hoping for more, wouldn't they? We'd be looking for attacking returns. That's a 1-0 against Ipswich. Ipswich aren't playing too badly at the moment, which is why I'm not overly worried about not having Chris Wood. I'm hoping that Ipswich at home can give Forest a decent game, but Forest do look pretty good, don't they? Right, so now we've got these two at the bottom are a bit adrift this week. So late riser, 41. He's been having a resurgence lately, and he captained Palmer, and none of his other players really did anything. He's only got Isaac left. Fair play to him. I think captaining Palmer in his position was the right thing to do. Same with Az. He's got Bowen left at least, but he's only on 30 points. So he needs Bowen to get a 20-pointer, doesn't he, really, today? So that's about it for that lot. Now we'll go back and have a look at what we should all be doing. Now this is basically for my team. I wouldn't recommend you look. Actually, first we're going to have a look at something funny, because you remember my Richard III plan, peeps. I come up with on the 15th of February to take out Salah in game week 29, and I'm still doing it. And the funny thing is, though, we're going to put this team of mine through the transfer solver, and I'm shocked, absolutely shocked. I didn't expect this, didn't expect it at all, but it does explain. Look at this. It wants me to take out Salah and then die, which is what I'm doing, and bring in Nwiri and Haaland. I won't be bringing in Nwiri. I won't be bringing in Enzo. I will be bringing in the mighty Dibbling. And the reason I don't want Nwiri is because he's not going to be starting for much longer. He's pretty much out, and which surprises me that FPL Review is still banging on about him, basically, because he's dead in the water, to be quite frank. And he would be a terrible player to bring in, I think. I think he really, he might score 2 goals against Chelsea this week and prove me wrong, but long term he is not the player you want to be bringing in. Enzo, I don't want him. He's more expensive than Dibbling. He'd play the same role as being on the bench most weeks, and yeah, I won't be bringing him. He would affect my plans going forward, because he'd take away 0.2 of a million that I actually need. Then what is it? Salah and Marmoush out. See, I've only just bought Marmoush. It doesn't like Marmoush. And, it might be right. We have to see. Your jury's still out on Marmoush. Like I said, I'm not prepared to write him off yet. It could have just been for that Forest game, but Pep knew would be difficult probably, and wanted to stick with his tried and trusted. Do you know what I mean? Although, to be honest, they didn't score a goal, did they? So the fact that they didn't score a goal might work in Mamouche's favour. They weren't great without him, were they? So we'll see. If he doesn't start against Brighton, the alarm bells are going to start ringing. But even then, I'm going to leave him till after Leicester. So and if he doesn't start that, he's definitely out. But this is really surprising me, because I've been wondering why so many people are talking about taking out Salah now. I've looked at they're all talking about taking out Salah, and this would be why. Because the thing is, FPL Review doesn't realise how bad Palmer is. It also doesn't realise how bad Haaland is. It's just crunching numbers, basically. It doesn't watch football. You know, if it did, I'm not sure it would go with this plan. But you know, I'm doing it still because I'm hoping that during the international break, Jackson and Madueke might be back, and Chelsea might go back to the Chelsea of old, and Palmer in particular might go back to the Chelsea of old. And the other thing is, he's like my cash cow to bring in Saka in a few weeks' time. And they've got Ipswich as well coming up, so I'm going to give him another chance. I'm going to keep Palmer. I couldn't work out how to get Haaland in by taking Palmer out without massive hits to a point where it made it less economical than taking Salah out. The other thing is, if you're not going to captain Salah, which I won't be, then there's no point having him. You know, obviously he is still going to get points, but I won't say there's no point having him, because there is a point. I mean, my worst fear is that something happens to Haaland in that game week in the FA Cup against Bournemouth and doesn't play against Leicester. And if that happens, then I don't have a good backup captain because I don't have Salah. So Salah is always a good vice captain if you've got Haaland, but I won't have him. So, but the thing is, I've worked out the worst case scenario for me is that happening, in which case I can always wildcard myself out of it. So that is the what's the cat doing? Oh, she's just come in from outside and she's brought in a moth. It looks like a moth, but no, I think it will be a moth because it's still dark outside. And she's brought a moth in and she's playing with it. You know, it's a new entertainment. She goes out, grabs the local wildlife, and brings it back in. And, you know, it's no wonder, peeps, that cats are going missing around here, getting tortured and strung up on lampposts. You know what I mean? You get up in the morning and there'll be a cat hanging up from a lamppost that one of the neighbours will have put up there. Because people in this country are sick of cats eating all their local native wildlife. Do you know what I mean? I mean, this one here, she was called Springer before we got her from the SPCA, and I know why now. She can leap about 10 foot in the air, and no bird is safe, peeps. No bird is safe. You know what I mean? You get these little endangered, rare little, colourful little creatures come into the garden. Next minute, they're gone. You know what I mean? So she's not favourite. The neighbours hate her. You know, she goes over the fence at the back. She gets abuse because they're ornithologists, peeps. You know, they don't like cats, and this one comes over their fence, heads straight for their bird table, and takes a swipe. Anyway, let's have a look. We've missed it all now, talking about the cat. So what was it recommending? It was final recommendation: Salah to Nweri, which I think is a very bad move because, like I said, Nweri. And in die to Haaland, which is good. But I am actually shocked, peeps, that this thing went straight to taking out Salah as its main option. And to me, this is why now you're going to hear so much this week about people getting rid of Salah. And to be honest, it's annoyed me a bit because I thought I was doing this as a differential. Like I said, you know, I'd come up with this plan, it Richard III. I come up with this 4 or 5 game weeks ago. I was completely drunk, watching a play, distracted. I come up with the idea. FPL Reviews only now just thought of it, you know. So we can see who the top brain is in this relationship, and it's not FPL Review. Do you know what I mean? They're slow to the party. They're bringing in a lemon, peeps. If they're bringing in a weary. So anyway, it wants me to do Pickford to Pope the following week, then Robinson to Livramento. Robinson could have a double game week if they beat Palace in the FA Cup. We shall see. And then it wants Fernandez to Eze for the double game week that Palace have got. And then Harwood Bellis to Guardiola for the double game week that Man City have got in game week 33. But it does not realise, peeps, that I shall be playing my assistant manager Chip, and will probably not have enough money for the likes of Guardiola. So let's have a quick plan, see what's happening, because it's right. So this was my team for this week. Absolute disaster. But it gets better because, like I said, what I'm doing, I'm taking out Salah. He's going. Without question. Without question, peeps, he's off. And the thing is, people say don't make early transfers, right? But most games this week do not affect me. Like, I couldn't care less if Salah gets injured. I get playing for Liverpool in the Champions League. Or if Trent gets injured, he's not playing this week anyway. If he gets injured for like months, I worry about him next week anyway, not this week. I've got no Arsenal player. Well, I've got Gabriel, but again, you know, I can't do anything about it if he's injured. The only game that affects me this week that could change my plans is the Chelsea match. Now, if Palmer were to pick up a long-term injury against Copenhagen, that could alter my plans. So I don't really want to make an early transfer this week. But I'm not completely ruling it out because I cannot afford to let him drop in price. I don't want Haaland to go up in price before I buy him, which I don't think he will, to be honest. I don't think he will. But anyway, we're taking out Salah and bringing in the mighty Dibbling, who we're not going to captain. And then we're taking out Ndai, who's been a long-term issue for me. So I've solved all my long-term issues in one foul swoop. So bring Haaland in. I captain him. Robinson plays for Trent, home to Tottenham. Not a great fixture, but we know what Tottenham are like. Anything can happen in that game. And I bring in Howard Bellis instead of Colwell. So I've got 11 players on the pitch with no hits. Absolutely crucial, peeps. I've seen so many people are thinking, oh, I'm going to take a -8 this week because everyone else is. You know, well, they're not. Everyone else isn't. People that have planned well. You know, I've had an injury to Cunha, but I still planned it so that I can get 11 out this week without any hits. So, you know, people taking -8, you know, it's because they've bought players that were risks. You know, people like Modango and Weary, players like that they knew only had a short shelf life. Right, so Colwell's on my bench. So if someone doesn't play, I can still get 11 out, although Colwell is a 0-pointer waiting to happen, isn't he, really? So let's see. Gabriel home to Chelsea, Robinson home to Tottenham, Howard Bellis home to Wolves, you never know. Palmer away at Arsenal, not great. Fernandes will be my vice-captain. Now, the one thing with Fernandes is a lot of people are buying him this week. We have a quick look on the live FPL. And we can see that price changes. The biggest price swaps this week are Fernandes to Palmer. Palmer out to Fernandes, sorry. That's the most popular transfer this week. A lot of people doing Isaac to Wood, Cunha to Wood, Rodgers to Fernandes, Palmer to Kluivert, Salah to Fernandes, Hall to Kirkes is very popular, Hall to Anya, Palmer to Gibbs White, Gakpo to Wood. So most people are doing one of those. They're bringing in Wood, Fernandes, or a Kluivert, or a Kirkes. Basically it. That's what people are doing. You see, Haaland's not even on this list, is he? Haaland's not even on this list. So, not a huge amount bringing in him. His price isn't going to go up anytime soon. Haaland, let's have a look. Still on -%. Few people buying him, not very many. Those that do are probably on free hits or using a wild card. I've got to look up and die. -38% is not going to fall for quite a few days. Hopefully after the Chelsea match. All of these free hits and that people are taking are going to slow down price changes this week, which is good. So I have no immediate rush to make my transfers. but I'm pretty set in stone that this is what I'm doing. And the reason it's Dibbling and not one of the others is because of his price, basically. Because makes a difference. He's only 4.4 million. Like, let's have a look at midfielders. Yeah, basically there's none, is there? None really. It looked at bringing in Fernandez, Chelsea, but no. Dibbling's the one I'm going to go for. He's got a double game week. He's home to Wolves. I mean, you never know, do you? You never know where your points are going to come from. And his ownership would be next to zero. Next to zero. And if he did score against Wolves, that would be massive, you know. So he's the one I'm going to bring in. Even if he only comes off the bench, it doesn't really matter. It's all about getting Haaland in this week and enabling things going forward. Here's my team I did weeks ago, my no Salah team. And you can see game week 30, it's nicely set up for game week 30. And game week 31, I play my assistant manager chip. Now, a lot of people have been complaining that content creators are no longer offering any advice for people that haven't used their assistant manager chip yet. And they're like left in the dark. And the reason is that they've all played theirs, so they don't really care about the assistant manager chip anymore, you know. But some of us do, because some of us haven't played it yet. So I will be using mine to bring in How. When I work out how to do it properly. Transfer. How. Right. Indeed. So it leaves me with 0.1. So you can see it's all doable. And in game week 31 as well, I take out Fernandez and bring in Gordon. So all the people getting Fernandez now are doing it because they're planning a wild card. Okay, so if you're getting Fernandez, the only people that should be getting Fernandez, in my opinion, are people that have set their mind to making a game week 31 wild card. You know, it's a good option if you do that. The only downside is they do have a European fixture on Thursday night, you know, like 3 days before Leicester. But we've seen before, Fernandez, he's a machine. You know, he doesn't seem to get tired. He plays 90 minutes every week, never seems to get injured. And, you know, so I wouldn't rule out him having a decent points next week. But everyone on free hits getting him, and people with a wild card in game week 1 are getting him too. Although a lot of them have got other issues. You know, like I said, I watched Andy's stream and his team looks a mess, like 8 players. Even with a -8, I think he's only got like 8 or 9 players. So he's actually thinking of wildcarding this week. But Fernandez, who else would you bring in for this week? I suppose Wood would be great. You know, if you're on a wild card and you haven't got Wood, you're going to bring him in for the Ipswich game. He never looks good, does he, Chris Wood? He only has 1 or 2 touches a match, but he's been getting so many points, but kind of at an unsustainable level, which is why people don't buy him. But he keeps doing it, you know, all the time. But so it is a worry not having Chris Wood away at Ipswich. And the more people get Haaland and captain him, the less people will be captaining Chris Wood. You know, everyone on a free hit chip will be bringing in Haaland. It's going to be very interesting to see how many content creators, the ones that follow FPL Review, are going to bring Haaland in for Salah, because a lot of people are put off because Palmer's been so awful. People's immediate reaction is to get rid of Palmer, and they're probably right too. You know, I mean, I'm going with this Salah plan, so I'm not happy with my rank. You know, I'm 200 odd K. But I do still have my assistant manager chip. So my real rank's probably about 150k, something like that. But I'm still not overly happy with that. So I want to differentiate myself. But like I said, it's logical. Even FPL Review thinks it's logical to take Salah out. So, although like I said, FPL Review doesn't realise how badly out of touch Palmer is. But I am hoping that the international break and everything, because after this week, there's no game for the rest of March. We got so much time off after this game week. It's ridiculous. An international break, it's awful, isn't it? We've got 2 weeks with no Premier League after this weekend. And the thing is, it might look like Saka and Co are a long way from coming back. But when you factor in that big long break, it's going to change things. It always does. International breaks always change things. Form changes, everything changes. So Palmer could well come back in tip-top form again after the international break. We just don't know, do we? And like I said, Jackson and Madueke might be back. Everything might change. So class is permanent and form's temporary, which is why I'm quite happy to go with this plan and keep Palmer. And in fact, a lot of people are getting rid of Palmer. I actually quite like that because it's more of a differential. They've got Ipswich in a couple of weeks. And like I said, he's a great cash cow to bring in Saka, who's also going to be very, very lowly owned when he comes back. Very lowly owned. Although to be honest, Arsenal are not going to have a huge amount to play for because Liverpool have pretty much won the league. And Arsenal are going to be pretty much guaranteed a top 5 spot. And they're not going to drop out of the top 5, but they're also not going to win the league. So they're kind of going to be in a no man's land and probably concentrating on the Champions League. So, again, for Salah, I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of people who are taking out Salah for Haaland just for this week and next week, and then they're going to wildcard in game week 31 and bring Salah back in. Now, I don't like that. I don't think that's a good plan. That's one plan I don't like, because if you take out Salah and bring him back in, you're immediately losing $500,000 off your budget for the rest of the season, at least. I think mine's 0.6. Like if I sell Salah and something happens to Haaland and I have to buy him back, it's going to cost me like 0.6 budget to do that. I'll do it if I have to, but that is a big downside, 0.6. And to plan to do that, I just think that's bad planning, to be quite frank. I know you get Haaland for Leicester, and Salah hasn't got a game this week and all that, but is that really worth losing 0.6 million in team value for the rest of the season? I don't think it is, because I don't think Salah's going to drop in price much this week. Because like everyone who's taking him out, a lot of people are doing it with free hits and wildcards. So I do not think that's a very sensible plan. I think if you're taking Salah out, you should take him out, full stop, and not plan to bring him back. The only time he'll be in my team for the rest of the season is probably going to be game week 34, when I bring him in on a free hit. I've got my wild card in game week 35. He could come back for that. I don't know yet. I might bring him back for the last few weeks of the season. But the thing is, by then, Liverpool will have won the league. Salah hasn't signed a new contract. He's probably going to go. He's pretty much achieved everything he can achieve at Liverpool, especially if they go on and win the Champions League and the league and all that type of thing. Then they're going to want to give Harvey Elliott a run. They're going to want to have a look in the last few games at what their team looks like without Salah in it. That's just my opinion anyway. Obviously, he's going to play the last game. And but they're going to be coasting in the last few weeks in the league, and all their efforts are probably going to be on the Champions League if they're still in it. And so I'm happy to take out Salah. And obviously, after game week 34, he might well be a very good captain choice in a couple of matches. I haven't really looked too much into that. But like I said, I can always bring him back in my game week 34 5 wild card just for the last few game weeks of the season. But it all looks logical, peeps. You know, plan Richard III is going ahead. You know, I mean, it's going to end up against Leicester, which is quite fitting for the Richard III plan. And we'll see what happens, you know. But why, oh, why did they bury someone in a car park? You know what I mean? You would have thought they could have buried him at Westminster Abbey or somewhere like that, you know. I mean, fancy putting him in a car park. Car park, peeps, you know. I know he was a bit of a villain, wasn't he? He wasn't a nice character. But what a way to treat him, you know. And why have your final battle in a car park? You know, I mean, I know there's a lot of road rage in that, but there's no need to chop someone's head off or whatever they did to him, cave his head in, you know, over an argument about a car park. You know what I mean? So he came to a sticky end anyway, peeps. And hopefully this plan is not going to come to quite a sticky end as Richard III, you know. So anyway, I'm off now. You know, I've had enough. You've had enough. And like I said, I've got to get down. Jesus, look at the time. I've got to get down the gym. I'm pushing it, peeps. I'm pushing it. Right, I've got to go. And I'll talk to you all later anyway. I will be back. So think on, peeps. I'll be back. And the next time you see me, I will be probably doing my transfer live. So you can see me actually doing it. So unlike everybody else, I won't be pretending to do it on my streams all week and then not doing it, you know, because I will actually be making these transfers, whereas most other people are going to pretend they're going to get rid of Salah and then they're going to go quack, 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 and chicken out. So cheers for now then, peeps. So like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you all later. Okay then, so bye for now then, peeps.